Hey guys, it's Josh. Hope everyone's enjoying the day after the Super Bowl. It's a great game yesterday. But then I saw something interesting in the news that the San Francisco 49ers had been attacked by BlackByte ransomware. And so I wanted to do a quick review of what that is and how it gets into your environments. I like taking real world attacks and understanding how ExtraHop RevealX would assist in detecting and remediate those threats. So let's get into it. I'll link to these in my YouTube channel, but essentially there's a ZDNet posting on the San Francisco 49ers attack by BlackByte. I'm really leveraging a lot of what I'm going to show is from what they did, the ZDNet article linked to this Red Canary article, which really goes into extreme detail, which is excellent. And I want to just kind of riff on that and showcase what are some of the areas that ExtraHop could assist in looking at the BlackByte ransomware variant. All right, so let's get into it. So first and foremost, initial access. How do we get in? So essentially, in August of 2021, Microsoft released a known CVE, a vulnerability within their Exchange application that was named Proxy Shell, and it allows you to run remote code execution. Stop me if you've heard the story before, right? This is a lot of these variants follow the same tasks, they're just using a different way to get in. So in one case, it might be log4j, log4shell. In this case, it happens to be Proxy Shell. We actually have a threat briefing and a detections for Proxy Shell built into the product. So that's great. You can set up decryption for those individual detections so that we can see inside those opaque workloads when you're connecting to your Microsoft Exchange server. If we're decrypting that traffic, which is very easy to do, if you're not doing it, you should start doing it. We can see that those Proxy Shell and those proxy logon attack surface, and we can look for those exploits, which is exactly how the BlackByte ransomware variant attacked the 49ers. This is their initial access. So we have detections for that. You can also look and see inside ExtraHop the individual IPs that are connecting to it. So even in a blast radius communication where you're trying to understand what happened, how bad did it get, if you're the 49ers, you're trying to dig through that, we can see all the IPs that are connected. So whether it was on a threat feed hit, which we have those from 6 and taxi feeds, or you're just looking to see post-compromise, what were the IPs that were connected to my Exchange servers, you can look for that within ExtraHop. So now let's get into that mid game. This is that soft GUI belly. So we've clicked on the link, we've done the Proxy Shell, and we're in your environment. So BlackByte's running and it's starting to begin its attack sequence. So what are some of the things it's doing, right? First and foremost, it's using Cobalt Strike beaconing. Almost all ransomware variants or ransomware as a service like BlackByte ransomware is going to use Cobalt Strike or some other variation of that, because it's a way to be able to get into the environment and start to run attacks and open up shells. And so we have detections for Cobalt Strikes, HTTP connections. We have detections for unusual inbound or outbound SSH if they're using that to be able to run and once they establish a connection to be able to establish malware and shell. We have interactive shell detection. So there's a lot of this stuff that we're able to see inside BlackByte ransomware once it started to get in your environment. This is that mid game before you get to full exploitation and compromise that we're really, really good at detecting. And so then you can see here, they're starting to do some credential dumping and they're starting to look at Windows admin shares. And what's really interesting here, guys, is they install AnyDesk. So these are these softwares that you can load onto any computer to say, basically gives you a full blown OS like you're sitting in front of that computer from anywhere in the world. We have detections for that unusual traffic. It's going to be unusual protocol communication. There was a water treatment attack in Florida last year that used a very similar tool. These can be used for good, but they can also be used for bad. So not only are we going to see that individual credential dumping and the remote services, we're actually going to see AnyDesk or any of those other programs that are using unusual protocol communication. And then you can look within ExtraHop to see, wow, that's very strange. Josh's computer is now going out and communicating with the AnyDesk servers, and it usually doesn't do that. And so we're able to understand the IPs and when it occurred, so you can really put a timeline together associated with that mid game of ransomware. All right. This is always interesting to me when this happens, and that we're seeing this more and more again. And this is where I think ExtraHop RevealX's and network detection response deserve their seat at the table. Look at this, guys. So to avoid detection and keep keeping them at bay, Windows Defender at bay, BlackByte basically obfuscates through PowerShell, and they basically turn off Windows Defender. So they're turning off your EDR agent. So if you've got CrowdStrike, Windows Defender, those are all great tools and you absolutely need them, but they're disabling and modifying those tools on the servers and the individual workstations that they're attacking. So they can see it before. This is before they do their full compromise. This is still the mid game. They're turning off EDR agents, saying, "Boom! Now I'm free to do a run rampant." So they're looking for those things and turning them off. You can't run from the wire. ExtraHop collects network data out of band, and you still have to transact on the network in order to do damage with ransomware, in order to infect with ransomware. It really is one of our superpowers. So, and then once we start to execute and still in that mid game, we're going to start to use PowerShell and other things to move laterally, and then we're going to start our encryption process. We're going to be able to see that uptick and detect that as ransomware. This is very strange that this device is connected to these shares when it usually isn't. This is a strange way for this individual server to communicate. It goes against the baseline for that file server, for that Windows server to be able to communicate in this behavior, and we're going to pop that as ransomware in your environment. And then they're doing a lot of network discovery with BlackByte. So that goes into detail here. And again, I'll link to this about, hey, if I get into your environment with BlackByte ransomware and proxy shell, I then need to understand, what do you have? I'm going to look for your firewalls. I'm going to run SYN scans. I'm going to run web directory scans. I'm going to run Kerberos user enumeration. I want to understand as much intelligence as I possibly can. And out of band, without agents, we can detect that behavior. That's that mid game of ransomware. Before I go full exploitation, I want to start to get and understand, what are the goodies that I can start to lock down here? How much can I lock down when I load this? I need to know that it exists before I can run ransomware and run BlackByte into those environments. And then finally, the post-compromise phase, they use WinRAR to compress local data and then exploit it and archive it and use anonymous file sharing files. So we're going to be able to see that as unusual interactive traffic. Maybe they use SSH to transport that. Maybe the next one will. So we're going to see that traffic move back and forth. We have a Tor node connection, suspicious Tor node that we can detect for as well. So we're able to see that. So if everything gets to the post-compromise phase, we still have these detections to assist you and understand what happened, where did it infect, what's my blast radius associated with this compromise. All right, guys, that was fast and heavy. This is a really good one for ExtraHop, so I was excited to show it to you guys, and I hope it was helpful. Thanks so much.